Hi, it's John from Under the Table Hot Sauce. I'm here with my friend, the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow.
Yeah, what's up, JB?
Nah, nothing.
It's been a hot summer, and for all your barbecue needs, you can go to underthetablehotsauce.com. 13 unique flavors to choose from, created and bottled in a Long Island kitchen. Underthetablehotsauce.com. Let's go chow, JB.
Let's do it.
All the flavor, twice the burn. M&J Video Games and Collectibles. Sport and non-sport cards, wrestling items, autographed items. We buy, sell, and trade. M&J Video Games and Collectibles, located at 1049 Queen Street, Southington, Connecticut. Call us at 1-860-479-9223 or 860-93-GAMES. M&J Video Games and Collectibles.
Dino Luzi energy drink. Yeah, it's that good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode 4 of The King's Bodyguard with your host, Grandmaster Dave Hebler. So we left off episode 3 talking about Elvis the Giver. So Dave, continue where you left off at, man. You were saying Elvis would buy you 6 pieces of clothes, 6 suits, cars, jewelry. He was just that type of guy. He took care of the people in his inner circle. And you were saying that's a pretty safe bet that he took care of you. If you were in his inner circle, you were taken care of.
Oh yeah, he I hardly know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
But it all ties in with Elvis the person, what he really was like. And I think in our first session I talked a little bit about Elvis the person. with the story about him giving me the second car, the Lincoln. And but the follow-up on that was, and I'll jump into that at that point in time, which is kind of gives you the idea of what Elvis the person was like. It was a couple of months after he had given me that second car, the Lincoln. By the way, that car is on display at Graceland right now, today. It's the purple Lincoln. So when y'all go there, say hi to my car, okay? Well, in any event, we're sitting around in his bedroom. Actually, we're sitting on his bed, on the edge of the bed. And we're talking, just chatting away, enjoying each other's company, just having a good time, talking about this, that, and the other thing, talking about girls. We talked about girls a lot, by the way. And for some reason, I just asked Elvis out of the top of my head. I says, Elvis, have you got any idea at all about how many vehicles that you have bought and given away in the last, I don't know, couple of years? And he said, no, and I don't care either. He said, hang on, I want to show you something. So he goes away and he comes back and he hands me a check made out to him in the amount of $100,000. Whew. This is, 1974. We're talking $100,000. Wow. And he said, Dave, I'm not stupid. And I realized full well that I couldn't buy the kind of goodwill and the kind of PR that I get whenever I buy somebody a car. He says, secondly, it seems like every time I do something good for somebody, like buy them a car, it comes back to me like 10 times over, like that check you got in your hand. He says, and lastly, it makes me feel good to make people happy. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis Presley, the person. So yeah, he was a generous human being, but he was that way by his nature. It wasn't some kind of a contrivance. He didn't do it to try to get publicity. I mean, he was already the most famous human being on the face of the planet. And he knew it, by the way. He didn't, he didn't need to, resort to trickery in order to get noticed. And he never did say, I mean, he was genuinely unique. In my lifetime, the most generous human being I ever met. I've never met anybody like him, ever. And I don't think you have either, probably. So,
I've never heard anyone gifting people cars before. That's amazing. I mean, like I said, he just made sure he went that extra mile to make sure the people who looked out for him, that were for him, he supported, he took care of. I mean, that's just an amazing testament to who he was as a man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was going through some financial difficulties at the time, and he offered me $50,000 in cash. I didn't take it, by the way. I never took money from Elvis Presley, ever. I took gifts, jewelry coming out my ears. I took cars, I took clothing, jackets, jewelry, tons of jewelry. I mean, he gave me He gave me a ring one time and told me it was his father's wedding ring. It was like a 4.5 carat diamond set in platinum.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. What? He gave me a turquoise bracelet that was 1,000 carats. He gave me a ruby ring, and there's a whole story about that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you
You want
about
to hear that story?
Yes, please. I would love to hear that again.
All right. We're getting on a plane to fly to Dallas to check in on the progress of the renovations on the Lisa Marie, the big airplane. And there was Elvis and Linda and Marty Lacker and me on the plane. And we're flying along. And Elvis had this ring, this monster of a ring on his finger. And I said, Elvis, that is the gaudiest bauble I have ever seen in my life. Can I look at that ring? He said, sure. So he gave me the ring to look at. Now the ring was a 40 carat natural star ruby, surrounded by 14 diamonds, 14 diamonds, all set in 18 karat gold. The ring weighed close to 5 ounces. I mean, it was heavy. So I put the ring on to try it on. And you're not old enough to remember, there used to be a comic book series of a guy called the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like Batman. But he had this ring with a skull and crossbones on it. And he would punch the bad guys in the forehead and would leave that skull and crossbones impression in the guy's forehead. And that's the thought that went through my mind when I put that ring on. And I'm going, wow, boy, I tell you what, you hit somebody with this and you will really leave a dent, you know, right? And Owen started laughing. He said, look at this fool. And I said, oh, so I took off the ring and I give it back to him, you know, right? And when I went to give it back to him, I dropped it on the floor. Boom, bam. I went, oh, geez. So then, so Elvis says, look at this fool. He's got a $50,000 ring on and he wants to hit somebody with it. And then he throws it on the damn floor. He said, just keep it. I said, what? He said, yeah, keep it. It's yours. I said, no, Elvis, I can. He said, no, man, you keep it. I want you to have it. Here's the deal, though. You can sell that ring if you want to. Do anything you want with it. The only thing I don't want you to do, that as long as you own it, you're the only one that ever wears it. That was the condition. I said, sure. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, that was it. I wore that ring. After Elvis, I became a dealer in various casinos in all around Nevada, Reno and Tahoe and Laughlin and Carson City and Minden. In fact, I spent 15 years as a dealer and a pit boss in the casino business. And while I was a dealer, I would wear that ring. Now, here I am dealing cards. And the conversation would start and the tokes would start coming in, boy. That was a toke making machine. I made more money wearing that ring you know, dealing and anything. People were amazed with it. And I'd tell them the story, and all of a sudden we're friends, and, you know, and all of a sudden I'm making a lot of money. So, I mean, that was the story of the ring. But it was pretty amazing.
So I actually have a question that I've never asked you before, Dave, since I've known you, and this is interesting to me to find out.
You always do this to me.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, in front of
You
a million
guys
people.
Yeah, no, so this is spontaneous on the spot, man. When you guys did bodyguard work, security work, what have you for Elvis, was there like a formation you guys always went in, or was it a different formation every time? Like, was there a structure? Like, say for example, you would be in the back, Sonny would be in the front, Red would be on the side. Was there a formation like that, or was it always just different every time?
It was fairly similar every time, but you know, it would change. We didn't really care if Red was over here and I was over here, or vice versa, or anything like that. You know,
Okay.
we had the whole pattern down pretty pat. You know how we would do it. It was the secret that we learned when bodyguarding Elvis is this: don't stop.
Mhm.
Just keep going.
Mhm.
Of course, that worked 100% of the time until those times when Elvis decided to stop.
Mm.
Then it got crazy.
Mhm.
Because he would attract a crowd.
Mhm.
And he didn't mind walking in the middle of them either. You know, and for a security person, from a security perspective, that was the worst thing that you could do. You never allow your client, you know, to get into that kind of a situation. He did it with regularity all the time.
So what would you guys have to do if he did that? Like, he broke away and went into the crowd his separate way. What was your guys' response to situations like that?
I would just get over and get next to him.
Mhm.
You know, so that I could intercede quickly if somebody made a move.
Mhm.
Sometimes they did do too, but they normally just wanted to hug him, or, you know, get a scarf or get a kiss or do something, you know, whatever.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. That was my question for the day.
Okay. That's kind of interesting. Nobody ever
Thank
asked.
you. Thank you. Oh yeah, no. So I mean, I know like you received a lot of questions from fans over the years, man, and I know you've got some really interesting ones to share. What are some of the more interesting questions you've received about Elvis? Like, what are some of the more interesting to you? That's not the same old rehashed questions. Because I'm imagining over the years you've been asked the same thing probably a lot of times as well.
Yeah, they often fit into categories. You know, there'll be a lot of questions about the same subject,
Mm-hmm.
which I can answer, you know, with the same answer for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to treat each one of them individually, even though I've heard that kind of a question before.
Mm-hmm.
So, because they always have a different one is. Sometimes they're just like, the answer is yes, or the answer is no. I mean, so here's one of those questions to give you an idea.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's name is Graham, and Graham says, first off, thank you for keeping Elvis safe and being a loyal friend.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, did Elvis ever take yourself or any of the guys back to Tupelo to the house where he grew up? And if so, when was this? And was this the first or the last time? Hello, Graham. Speaking personally, Elvis never took me to Tupelo, and I have never been there in my life. That's the answer to that one. Oh, they get weird. Sometimes they don't make sense, and they're kind of like off the topic. And here's one like that. This is from Pablo, and Pablo says, "Hi from Spain. Where do you live? Where was the last time you talked with Elvis? Thanks from Spain." Hi, Pablo. I live in Texas. Last time I talked with Elvis is the day before I was fired. That's the answer. Well, here's another one of those long-winded ones. This is from Ian. And Ian says, "Hi, Dave. Have you had an opportunity to watch the trailer for the new Elvis bio picture? If so, what are your views on what you have seen?" Well, Ian, I did see the trailer, and my short answer is that I liked it. And I'll probably go see the full movie when it does come out. That's it. And here's another one from Thomas. And Thomas says, "Hi, Dave. I just watched the interview with you and my friend Rob at Always Elvis Fan Club. I always wanted to say this to you and Red and Sonny. You guys could never be responsible for what Elvis did to himself. You all were not doctors, therapists, etc. You were all caught up in a bad situation. A great entertainer that lost his way, aided by doctors and became dependent on drugs. Writing a book out of hurt and bitterness, as Sonny said, is understandable, especially Red and Sonny after all the years of service. People keep forgetting that Elvis is gone for the very reason you guys wrote about and tried to help him with. His drug dependence, as you said. How do you protect a man from himself? Sad, and said without judgment. A shame Elvis could not have conquered this. No doubt you guys tried. All the best, Tommy." Well, you know, Tommy, I would I just like to say something briefly about this, and then let it go to another session, because I have a whole lot to say about the drug thing. I will say that I originally believed that Elvis's death was caused directly by drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I later learned, got more, you know, and of course, I wasn't there when Elvis died. Red and Sonny and I were let go about a year before Elvis died. So we weren't there. We weren't witnesses or anything like that. So my information is hearsay. It's secondhand information. But it's pretty good information because it comes from the guys that were there when the episode took place, when Elvis actually died. And to repeat, I originally thought when we wrote the book, actually, that Elvis's death was caused primarily by drugs. Information that I received later on caused me to change my mind. And I no longer believe that Elvis died as a result, a direct result of drugs. Rather, I believe that his drug dependence contributed to his physical condition, which led up to a massive heart attack. So I think drugs were a contributing factor in that whole period of time leading up until the actual episode that killed him. But was not the primary cause. And I was persuaded for a number of reasons. One of the reasons was that somebody pointed out to me that that Elvis died a violent death. You know, he almost bit his tongue in half. I mean, it was a violent death. And drug deaths aren't like that. People just like go to sleep and die, you know, from drug overdoses. So there is that factor. And testimony from people, doctors and scientists who know a whole lot more about that subject than I do, have all contributed to my belief today that drugs, that Elvis really had three kind of drug issues, if you will. I don't know how to describe it other than that. The issue one is that he legitimately had physical ailments, and he was prescribed medications for those particular physical ailments. That's totally legitimate. I mean, I take heart medications right now. You know, I have physical conditions that are that my doctors have prescribed, you know, certain drugs for me, which are all therapeutic and they all work, and that's fine. So that's one of the issues. Second issue was the drugs that were being set in by other doctors. Here you got Dr. Nick trying his best to help his patient. And all the while, drugs are coming in from other doctors. I remember Elvis was in the hospital from a drug reaction, and I was in the room next to him. And I intercepted a bottle of pills from another doctor, 1,000 pills, 1,000 pills from another doctor. How in the world is Dr. Nick supposed to get a handle on, you know, caring for his patient when his patient is getting medications from other doctors that Dr. Nick knew nothing about? Crazy.
Well, it's pretty safe to say that Elvis, because of his celebrity status and who he was, could pretty much fly into any city in the country and to any area and have the doctor prescribe or overprescribe any type of medication he wanted at any time. Is that pretty safe to say?
Yeah, he could get whatever he wanted, you know, from wherever. And that was the third part. Then there's the third category, and this is the first time I'm bringing this up. I might even surprise you with this, Tim. The third issue that Elvis had was not with the prescription drugs, but with the feel-good drugs, like the Demerol and the cocaine and that kind of stuff. And those drugs weren't issued by doctors necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
They were brought in by people close to Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
The enablers, people that were bringing in drugs, the feel-good drugs, in order to get a reward from Elvis, like a new car, stuff like that. To give you an example, his brother Ricky actually publicly stated that he was an enabler. He was one of the people bringing in all of those side drugs. But he wasn't the only one. I don't want to name names. I'm not really interested on a crusade, and I don't want to start a war with anybody or anything like that. But people need to know that the feel-good drugs were brought in people that were pretty close to Elvis. So that's the issue of the drug thing, as far as I'm concerned. You know, there are other.
Let me just add this.
Pardon?
I believe that you guys, you specifically, you, Red West and Sonny West, I believe you guys were fired because you guys were the only men around Elvis that would actually stand up and say what was right and what was wrong. In other words, you guys were not yes men.
That's true. We did the best we could to try to help somebody that we cared for, somebody we loved, really, who we thought was killing themselves with all of these, extraneous drugs. And we wanted to stop that. We wanted to help him. We wanted him to realize what he was doing, not only to himself, but all of the people around him, with all of those drug things. And we're not doctors. We weren't doctors. We didn't know what to do. We just tried to do the best that we could with the situation that we had at the time. And we tried, and we failed. We tried, and we were fired. So we thought if we would make it all public, that would force him to realize that he had this problem, and maybe, just maybe, it would motivate him to get the kind of help, the kind of professional help that we felt he needed in order to get rid of that horrible dependence. And we were crucified for it. Crucified. Some of that still is around today. Not very much, but some of it's still there. People hating on me so bad that they say the most vilest things that they possibly can think of to attack me, and through their ignorance, I don't know, somehow try to hurt me. Doesn't work. Because for every nasty thing that comes my way, I get 10 more friends. So that's what it is, brother.
Yeah. It's a lot easier looking outside than being part of something. And you were there, you were around it, you were part of that scene. And the thing is, you guys did everything in your power to try to save Elvis from Elvis. But nobody could save Elvis from Elvis, because your classic line is, how do you save a man from himself? How do you save anybody from themselves? You can't. It's impossible.
You can't. I don't care how much you love somebody, how much you care about somebody. You can't save them from themselves. You cannot.
Right.
You cannot.
Mhm.
I don't know if any of y'all that are listening have had the experience of not of yourself, or perhaps a member of your family who is addicted to drugs. I hope not. I hope nobody ever is, because it's a horror. It's a nightmare.
Mhm.
And you are totally helpless to do anything about it. Because until that person quits, until that person stops, until that person gets the right help, there ain't nothing you can do. If there is, I'd like somebody to tell me what it is, because I don't know what it is.
None of us do.
Yeah.
But everyone remembers Elvis, the person, you know, the personality, the entertainer, the performer. But very few people like yourself really knew his inner life, you know. And I think this is the end of actually episode 4. Episode 4. Actually, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So,
So that's done.
we'll be coming back, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, with episode 5 here in a minute. So we're providing some great content today from Mr. Dave Hebler on the King's Bodyguard broadcast. And we will be back with you in a moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.